Hi to everybody joining us on this very special broadcast. Now, we're used to seeing FII on the channel on NDTV 24/7 and on our Hindi channel as well. But this is such a special conversation, and we wanted to engage with all our FII audience directly. So we thought, why not get on to social media, get online, and have this live medium of communication going on with you. So hello and welcome again. I'm Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor, and I'm joined by Dr. Anjali. Thanks so much, Anjali, for your time. We are here today for a very important conversation, that is going on all around us. And our endeavor today will be to try and navigate through it and try and see if we can come up with some solutions. We're talking about mental health, something, the importance of which all of us have suddenly realized if we hadn't earlier already, especially in the past year and a half. And today in this conversation, Anjali and I will try and decode some tips, some easy way outs for you to follow to ensure that you're taking care of yourself and your mental health as well. So just for anybody joining in right now, you can keep throwing us some questions. And in middle of the conversation, I'll try and take as many questions as possible. Anjali is very graciously given us her time to take all your questions directly. Okay, so here we go, and we are live now, I am told. So without any further ado, let me quickly, one second. Yeah. Okay, so let's get started. Anjali, as we wait for everybody to just join us and send in questions, I just want to start by saying this on why it was so important we felt at NDTV to have this conversation, because on our program, FII, we keep taking up issues to try and give people simple solutions to whatever is happening around us. But when it comes to mental health, there are no sort of simple solutions or no blanket solutions, if we can call it that. There is no one fix for all. And we are talking at a time when there is grief all around us. When there are enough and more people who have lost someone, they are grieving, not getting closure because they've not been able to say goodbye in the most traditional ways. There are young lives being lost. So there is shock in the family. There is also a lot of uncertainty. There is fear in those who haven't contracted the virus so far. And then there are those who have this sort of survivor's guilt as well, who have some sort of vicarious grief as well. So there are different kinds of perhaps grief that is around us, different kinds of uncertainty and fear as well. To start with, a lot of people, we keep hearing that, journaling is great and talking to someone is great. But if you look at mental health at this point, the need for help, I want to start by that. Who are those people at this point who you think need help and should ask for help?
So I think that's a great question, Sonal. The fact is that, as you rightly said, what we are seeing today is people are suffering. Okay. And there is suffering if you have a fear of COVID. There is suffering when you are going through COVID. A lot of people cannot handle being alone. There are people who are worried about their parents getting COVID, and there are people who are worried about their kids being in hospitals. We've seen in the second wave, a lot of young lives have also gone. Now what happens is that if someone reacts, okay, for example, if I have anxiety that, oh my God, will I get COVID? That's quite a normal phenomena, and that anxiety is going to help me to carry my mask or to sanitize myself or to keep the social distance or even be indoors. But if that anxiety becomes so much that I'm not able to sleep, I'm not able to eat, I'm continuously washing my hands, or I'm not eating because if I eat, I'll have to wash my hands again, or if I've locked myself in a room, that definitely is excessive anxiety, almost bordering on obsessive compulsive disorder. Similarly, when people are getting worried about their loved ones in hospital or, getting well. Now, if those people are worried and they're doing whatever they have to do, whether it's running after medication, getting oxygen, etc., again, that is a normal reaction. But if anxiety paralyzes them and they're not able to do anything, or they're just sitting at home and crying or just anticipating that the worst is going to happen, I mean, we've even seen people who on an attempted suicide thinking that, oh, what will I do when I'm alone? When the fact of the matter is that they're not alone, you know? So these are extreme reactions, and these extremes need to be attended to, as if there's an emergency. Just as we have heard that if the oxygen goes beyond a certain level, you take the person to hospital. Similarly, these are the people who are worrying excessively, and these are the people who need to see a mental health professional, whether it's a psychiatrist or a psychologist, and there needs to be a complete history taken. We need to assess them whether they need medication, whether they need any other therapies,
Okay.
So giving the example of COVID itself, 80% of the people may be going through, like a mild COVID. So, and normal anxiety, normal worry, worry about school, boredom. I'm not meeting my friends. I'm fed
or
up
just
of
work
online
from
school.
home to manage kids
Absolutely.
while you're working without any help, which all of us Indians are so spoiled with, or worrying
Right.
about older people at home. It is at times too much to take. So you say that if you're seeing any extreme reactions, do seek help, which brings me to the point that we don't have enough counselors or mental health professionals in the country to start with. We don't our counselors or mental health professionals per sort of a population, etc., is extremely low. India is one of those countries which has woken up very, very late to the issue of mental health. At a point like this, what can people do? Who can they reach out to? Initially, if you're just feeling low at home or just feeling really anxious because of what you're seeing around yourself, who do you reach out to? Who's your first contact?
So your first contact, actually I'm telling everyone is have three people that you can contact any time of the day or the night, So one can be a friend, one can be a relative, one can be a resource person, like a family doctor or someone you may know and you have high regards for. Okay. Have at least three people, because chances are that, maybe one out of the three is busy, but all three of them being busy is a little, I mean, it may not happen. One can also have a support system of friends, of family, of people at workplace. We've been creating these support systems. Like we have a group of doctors, if anyone is feeling, low, helpless, etc. A lot of doctors and mental health professionals and healthcare workers were also feeling extremely helpless, because it was like 20 of us trying to get one person into hospital, or one hospital bed. So what happens is, so we've created support systems, and I'm urging everyone, even youngsters whose parents are living away, you're worrying that, oh God, what will happen if my parent falls sick? Create a support system either in the building of your parents or in your family, and be the same for someone else. This is the time that we just need to hold each other's hands and do whatever we can to help anyone and everyone, and our motto today is anyone can help, so I think that is what we need to do. So if
when you
can't
say
reach out,
let me pick on that. When you say anyone can help, what do you mean? You mean just reach out, ensure when you're feeling extremely anxious, just pick up the phone, call someone you trust, and just speak your mind or just vent it out.
Yes.
That's what you're saying?
Yes. Talk to your friends, tell them what you're feeling. Do not only talk good things. If you have worries, if you have anxieties, if you've lost your job, please pick up the phone and talk to them. Don't feel shame. Don't feel that, what will other people think? Oh God, they're going to laugh at me.
You're basically saying bottling up doesn't help. You have to speak out.
You have to talk. You have to speak up, because only if you speak up, will you be able to relieve yourself of the stress that you're feeling. You will also get the help. So if you're feeling low and you're talking to a friend and your friend, kind of just talks you through it, most of the time your anxiety, your stress may go down, and your
Right.
friend will also be able to show you reality, because people, especially who are going through COVID, think that they're the ones, they always feel what if, what if my oxygen goes down? What if I reach the hospital? What if I die? These are the thoughts, negative thoughts that come to your mind. But when you talk to someone, they'll probably give you a reality check and say, listen, you're probably in the 80%, nothing's going to happen to you. And if anything happens, let me know. And they will keep a check on you as well. And also, the next time that friend is going through a problem, he or she is going to pick up the phone and call you up.
So you're trying to say that focus on the fact that there is sort of collective anxiety, there is sort of collective grief that we're all going through. And the paradox here is that while COVID has ensured that we don't see anybody and we are isolated, yet we are together in this time because we're all going through the same thing. COVID has been such an equalizer that way. It doesn't matter what your bank balance says. It doesn't matter where you live, how big your house is. Everybody needs to be as careful. So that is something, maybe if you tell yourself that, maybe it helps that everybody is going through the same thing. You got to sort of stay strong,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. I think this whole stay strong is actually, no, you don't have to stay strong. You just have to stay connected to what you're feeling. And you need to share with people what you're feeling. Because otherwise, if I wake up in the morning and I put this pressure and say, oh my God, I'm supposed to be strong, in 2 hours, I'm not going to feel strong. Instead, if I recognize my feelings and say, I'm not feeling good today, I'm feeling anxious, is this a bad nightmare? When is it ever going to end? Chances are that I will be connected to my feelings and I will be able to share the same with whoever I care for or whoever cares for me. And we can hold each other's hands. And as you rightly said that, in the last 1.5 years, people have been holding the hands of complete strangers. And it is these strangers that are helping them in their deepest, darkest moments, whether it's taking someone to hospital, whether it's whether it's your watchman or your security person who's been working 24/7, who is getting you your groceries, or whether it is the person who takes you to the hospital or even checks you, because family cannot be there beyond the point for you.
Right. And the physicality of it all as well. Let's take a question now. We've got Deepak writing to us on our Facebook page saying, I got COVID positive in April, and by grace of God, I fully recovered. Now, all the time, I have anxiety and fear of some diseases. All the time, I check myself with a thermometer, oximeter, please help. So Deepak Anjali is like a classic case who has recovered, but it's still so anxious because they don't know what the future really holds. Are you more vulnerable? Do you have antibodies? Can I now step out? Can I go see someone? And should I get a vaccine, not get a vaccine? There are so many questions. But also what peculiar thing that he's pointed about is that now he has fear of other diseases as well. How can we help him?
Right. So we are seeing a lot of post-COVID anxiety, hypochondriasis, depression, insomnia, especially a month, 4 to 6 weeks later. In fact, up to 2 months after COVID, we see all the post-COVID complications. Deepak, what I would suggest is that you must reach out to a mental health professional, and the fact is, honestly, you're one of the lucky guys who's already you've been there, done that, and you've
done the hard part. Your body has done all of that. Now you just got to train your mind.
Yes. And, sometimes it may not be easy to train your mind, because a lot of people, the anxiety is more like a physical reaction. It's more like as if your circuits have kind of got, need to be reorganized, which even if you need to take some medication, please go ahead. So if you're not able to sleep for more than 4 to 6 hours, take something, regulate your sleep, but do not self-medicate. Do not drink alcohol. Do not have too much caffeine. Maintain a sleep routine, which is extremely important. And of course, try and surround yourself with positive people. Do not listen to negative news time, listen to positive news and do things that you enjoy. And
Mm,
please slow down. Many a times, I think the pace of life that we were living before COVID itself was probably unnatural. So COVID has taught us to slow down and to listen to our body. So don't push
mm,
yourself to over exercise, or
mm,
to keep working and say, no, 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 I'm young, I must work. Listen to your
mm,
body. If you're feeling anxious, go down to the bottom of your anxiety and say, okay, what am I feeling anxious about?
mm,
And if you're not able to deal with it yourself, there are lots and lots of helplines psychologists, psychiatrists have put up. Just pick up a helpline, talk to a stranger, share with them whatever
mm,
you're feeling, and
mm,
if that doesn't help, to just reach out to a doctor, reach
mm,
out to a psychiatrist. We are not scary people. We help people to deal with their mental health issues.
mm. Right. But I want to pick on what you just said, Anjali, and this is something which has been sort of running on my mind as well. I'm in the industry. We are in the business of keeping people informed, giving them news, keeping the government on the edge. That's the job of the fourth pillar, right? To ensure all of that. And while in the process of doing that, I hear a lot of people say that, oh, news is just so negative. It just gets me all sort of caught up and tangled in my own emotions. So, what is your advice to people who want to
So
keep
see,
themselves informed, keep themselves
right,
abreast with
right.
where is the lockdown, where is it happening, what are the numbers, to keep themselves updated, but not get consumed by it?
Right. So, what we've been advising people is definitely know what's happening around you, but don't get obsessed with negative news. So
Mm,
one is okay, you put on the television or whatever social media, you hear the news. Okay. But there are people who are constantly spending, more than 10 to 12 hours on their gadgets and they want to read every WhatsApp forward. They want to forward it,
mm.
to 20 other people. Okay.
Exactly,
And
because
they,
news is not the only medium. It's WhatsApp. It's
exactly.
every conversation you do. It's just about
Yes.
COVID now.
And then so what is happening is when people are just getting obsessed with screens, that's when, okay, you finish WhatsApp, you go on to Twitter, then you go on to the news, then you go on to something else. So what is happening is we are feeling that we need to know anything and everything that's happening all over the world. There's no
Hmm,
need to do that. Listen to music, enjoy dancing. I know even if you can't get out of the house, find
hmm,
something to keep yourself occupied, you know and do not sit thinking and worrying about the future or the past.
hmm,
So that is something that we need to do. And of course there are lots of positive news also which is going around. Watch that, and please find time to disconnect from all gadgets and spend time with the family. Maybe
hmm,
just play a game, play a game of cards, play sing songs together, get
hmm,
your old board games out, you know
hmm,
but I think the family needs to know do that, compulsory.
hmm. Right. Which brings me to the point that, a lot of people, a lot of youngsters also now stuck in the metros for their job, etc., living alone. It's perhaps the hardest for them to be staying disconnected with family, feeling fearful and anxious about what might happen to them, to their loved ones. And then there is nobody even they can interact with. And then there are those at home who sort of get stuck to their devices and don't indulge in conversation at all. So while you address that bit, that inside the house, it's very important to take out that 1 hour where you're just communicating to each other, just talking about your feelings. Take that as a support group, like treat your family as one, talk about how you're feeling. It's good. What do those who are stuck home alone or away from home alone, how do they tackle these anxious thoughts that come in the mind?
So, we've been dealing with a lot of people. In fact, I have a group of 300 senior citizens, and a lot of them were living by themselves, even before the pandemic. So what we did was we created buddy systems. So we had people checking on them and them checking on other people. And we also created senior citizens to be buddies with the young doctors who were living alone, or young journalists who were living alone. you
Hmm.
know so it's like it was kind of fulfilling the need of both the parties.
Hmm.
Imagine you come back from work, and if you have someone who just calls you up and says, beta khana khaya, that itself is enough for you to feel connected. you know and similarly, so while when doing that, so the best thing is that, today we have internet, we can talk to anyone anywhere in the world, and again, when people also in a group of people, it's okay, don't just talk about, okay, which movie do we see. No harm in talking to your best friend and saying, I really feel concerned, my mom is living all by herself, and she would probably tell you the same. you know I remember a lot of us doctors have not seen our kids for a long time, and every
Yes.
time you feel low and you say, oh my god, I've not seen my son for a year, a friend will say, yeah, but I also haven't. So then you feel okay, you're not alone, and this is the least that you're going through. People have lost family members. Here, at least the least problem that we are going through is that we are not meeting them physically. you know so it's like, and also whenever people are feeling low, I tell them, just get up and start helping something or someone around you.
You think that
you
helps?
know Absolutely.
You feel you're contributing in some way.
Absolutely. That is something that really helps. And that you could, maybe you start watering plants. You start keeping some water for birds outside. You feed the stray animals outside your house. You start maybe just looking at people around you who may have not eaten. Make a few a little extra food. We also had a lot of these senior citizens who started cooking for the doctors who were not well, and started sending food to the hospital. What happened was that the doctors appreciated that so much that instead of going home and taking that customary leave that they were allowed to, they said, no, we felt so cared for, now come on, let's go back to work. These were guys who were suffering from COVID just because they felt that they were cared for. So it's these community initiatives, which make a lot of difference.
I like what you said about just watering the plant. So you're basically saying just take care of something, if not a human being, then a plant, maybe some birds, maybe some strays. That itself will give you some sort of energy to go about. Being able to help others sort of gives you a feeling that you're somewhere helping yourself as well, right? And a lot of people, it is coping mechanism. When you're talking about doctors, I can tell you as journalists, it's been tough on all of us as well to just keep reading out to death tolls after the other, knowing very well that some of our own family members have been part of that death toll, and we still continue to talk about it. And while others have the option perhaps to switch off the television, you got to keep going on. And I have to say this for everybody, for our viewers watching as well, that yes, it is tough for us as well, but somewhere it's a coping mechanism, right? Because we're helping in some way, right? So it's a coping mechanism at the end of the day.
Hats off to all you guys. Today I was reading about one young journalist who lost his life, and it was really, really saddening. And you guys are the health workers too, who have to risk your life, go out there and deal with all the negative news that you're getting to. So it's really important that, end of the day, you must do something to switch off. Maybe just listen to music, read a book, do nothing. It's okay. Just spend some time taking care of yourself. Declutter when you can. All these extra things that we have accumulated over the years, that is something that also helps. When you just declutter your space, you also start feeling good, in some way.
Right. And very helpful, I guess. Very helpful for all of us as well. Let me take another question on that note. We've got Akshay Singhal, and he says, being CA final student, it's very difficult to study due to the uncertainty of conducting of these examinations, creating very stressful situation. What should I do to keep a track, I think he means, with studies in these trying times? For students, especially, Anjali, very hard time. How do they cope?
Yeah. No, students have really been, because it's like you're waiting for exams for 10 days, 15 days, 1 month, 2 months, and you never know when the exams are going to happen. So obviously you lose interest in studying. Now, I've been telling all parents and all students that, studying is the most difficult thing on earth, because you have to pay attention, and this is something that we're finding that you're not able to pay attention, so what happens is, because you're at home, you presume that you will study the whole day and you land up not studying at all, So please, Akshay, divide your day into, a few parts. Okay. One part of the day is to take care of yourself, to have a shower, to eat food, to exercise. Okay, another part of your day is to study, and there should be a third part of the day where either you're spending time with family or helping someone else out. Because if you think you're only going to study the whole day, that's not going to happen. The second thing is divide your space. Please do not use your bed to study, eat, sleep, and watch Netflix. Instead
Very
of that,
important.
yeah. Instead of that, maybe, even if you have a little corner in your room which is sitting on the floor and studying, do that. Use your bed only to sleep, and separate these times out. Try and stick to waking up at a particular time in the morning, unless you have a crowded house and you don't have space to study. And fourth is discuss your issues with your friends. Sometimes when you're talking to your friends and saying, I didn't study, your friend will say, even I didn't study. And then maybe you both can make a plan to study something together or to discuss something that you've studied, because that also helps when you tell someone that, okay, let me teach you what I studied today, and tomorrow you teach me what you studied, And also, if there are any other anxieties that are bothering you, and just remember that all of us are in this same thing. And I know a lot of youngsters feel their plans have been halted. They've been paused, and that also creates a lot of anxiety.
Right.
But just start
Right.
doing
Being
these
home
simple
and
things.
then just sort of compartmentalizing, make like a study area where you will go at a particular time of the day. That sort of also gets you into the zone. It's like what's
Yes.
worked for a lot of people who work from home, right? They make like a little corner for themselves, but they know that they're on the desk, they're in work mode, and then they can sort of switch off once they get out of the room. But
And
speaking
sometimes
about
people may
kids,
have to switch these corners also, because
oh, okay.
sometimes you just get bored in one corner, so no problem. I have a dining table and I rotate the chairs. So,
yeah,
that also
you
helps.
become
Sorry,
your
you were
own
saying something.
interior. No, you can become your own interior designer and sort of play around the furniture in the house if you're privileged enough to do so, that is. But talking about
No,
kids, and
no,
since
play around with the space, just the
yeah
space.
yeah
Yeah.
younger kids, I've been thinking about that quite a lot of late, where these are the kids who had to go out and get some energy. They were going for football practices and painting classes and school, and then playtime with friends, and all of that is now done. They're just home with parents. What is happening to all that extra energy? And parents are finding it so hard, Anjali, now to just keep their kids entertained and also keep their minds working, not to get them really lazy or down and out. How do parents manage that with kids?
So I think one thing which I've been telling all parents is become kids yourself. Now, what do I mean by that is that when you realize what your child is going through, kids are also bored. Okay, they're not finding it easy to pay attention. They don't even have to get up and go anywhere. They just have to probably wear their uniform, and most of them only wear their shirt, and they're sitting in their pajamas and they're attending school. So what happens is definitely they're feeling bored, and because of that, they're becoming a little destructive. They may want to play cricket in the house, break a few things. It's okay. They may want to pinch each other or play with each other or trouble each other and get irritated. Just be fine with them, but find time to play with your kids. Be relaxed around them, wake them up with sort of love and affection. Don't wake them up screaming and shouting. And if parents can manage their own anxieties around their kids and keep a calm demeanor in front of them, the kid will also learn the same. And in fact, some of these kids have told me, we really enjoyed because we are spending so much time at home with our parents and with our grandparents. And also, I think, parents need to find different ways to become creative and use the energy of the children. So I had one little fellow who was 9 years old, and who was getting destructive. And when I asked him, I said, okay, tell me, who can you help? Okay. He actually started cooking, and he started first cooking for his staff. Then he started cooking and selling food and giving me that money to buy masks for poor people. So I would have these discussions with him, and he would say, okay, I have made 500 rupees. I said, okay, so calculate how many boiled eggs they are. And come on, let's, send boiled eggs to whoever needs proteins. So when these kids get involved, when they become a part of the solution, and Anyone can do that, so it's also, please, I know a lot of parents, they have so many chores to do in the house. Make the kids responsible. Let
Hmm.
someone wash the bathroom one day and let somebody wash the dishes one day. And please
Hmm.
don't keep correcting them and say, oh, you didn't do it right. It's okay. But
Hmm.
definitely it's also important to find some time and find different games, and also discuss with the kids, allow them to talk, allow them to vent out
Hmm.
their own frustrations, and allow them to come up with their solutions you
Hmm.
know
Right. We are left a few more minutes on the broadcast, so I just quickly want to sort of turn our attention to sort of coping with loss of your loved ones. So, so many scenarios where you've lost somebody extremely close to you, and right now the deal is that because of COVID, your support group is not around you. There have been instances where the children can't reach for the final and the last rites of their own parents. There are situations where parents can't do the same thing for their young kids as well. So it's first the shock of the fact that this has happened to you, and then how does one go about with the grieving process? What is the best way to sort of understand what has happened and take it forward? What do you recommend?
So, that is really, really unfortunate what we are seeing. And to handle that, we have actually started some bereavement groups, which if anybody wants to know about, they can reach out to us. But there is nothing like a normal grief, because anyone who has lost a loved one, especially in these times, finds it very, very difficult, because sometimes people can't even bid a goodbye, to their loved ones, and that makes it extremely traumatic. Okay, take your time, don't be in a hurry to come out of it. Talk about your loved one, okay, and other people around them, please rally around them in whatever way you can. Be patient with them. Do not expect them to snap out of it, or to say that, oh, everybody loses their parents. Okay, losing a parent after a long illness is very different, and it's extremely difficult to see someone who was hale and hearty and somebody who you lost to a viral illness. So it's
Suddenly gone.
understand
Mm.
absolutely, it's
Mm.
understandable that the person may be angry, may be sad, but if the person is showing warning signs of feeling suicidal, does not eat, is not being able to sleep, please reach out to your friendly neighborhood psychiatrist and let them help you through this.
Mm.
And for those of you who want to volunteer their time, you can become a part of the support system, you
Oh,
know
really? How?
just by listening to these people. Find
Mm.
a time of the day that you could just connect with them, where you're not disturbing them, and just listen to them. Do not give them any advice.
Mm.
Okay, just be there for them to do whatever the person would have otherwise done. you
Mm.
know so, and yes, you can also become part of the bereavement groups, of the support groups that we are planning.
Mm.
So that is
So
what
can
we
you,
can do for
okay,
them.
if I can just interrupt over there. Actually, when you say that watch out for so many extreme signs,
Yeah,
what are some of these signs? Can you state some of
sure.
them, that's something people should be
Mood
careful about?
changes. Yeah,
Hmm.
mood changes. Okay, sadness of mood, which continues to not only stay but grow. The person is losing all interest in life, becomes hopeless, helpless, feels worthless, is crying incessantly, is not eating or overeating, is not sleeping or oversleeping, and is getting very angry.
Mm.
And there are people who may talk about self-harm, who may say that life is not worth living.
That's
These are
definitely an alarm
people.
sign.
Absolutely, absolutely. you
So
know
if a person who's recently lost someone is obviously going to be in this state of numbness for some time, what do you recommend? How do they sort of get back into the routine thing? Should they start up, looking at a few hobbies? Should they talk more? Should
See,
they try
what
and write
happens
it down?
is
What does one do?
what happens is the solution is not the same for everybody. And I do
Right.
not want people to feel that we are undermining their laws,
Hmm.
by just saying, okay,
Hmm.
get up and indulge in a hobby. But definitely trying to get back to your routine, whatever it was, trying to get on with your life, and seeking help from other people, talking about your loss. The
Hmm.
worst thing people can do is withdraw and shut down. And that is
Hmm.
something we do not want people to do.
Hmm. So you want them to try and get back to the routine as soon as possible. Uh, Last two questions actually, actually that I have. One is a lot of, when you've lost a family member suddenly, and since kids are in the house, and we've seen lots of instances where it's been very difficult to sort of make sense of the entire thing of what's happening in the universe around us to kids. Is there a way one can approach that with kids? How do you sort of, with tenderness, make them understand what is happening and make them realize of the changes that are going on really, and how our world is really changing around us?
So I think kids are very smart, and we should not underestimate their intelligence. And what happens is, depending on the culture of the family, depending on what the kids have observed, it's very important to not keep away the truth from them, and to not overload them with the truth. So
Okay.
if you've lost a family member, there's no need to go into details that, oh my God, if he would have got a ventilator, he would have survived. That is not
Hmm.
necessary.
So
And
not
also,
do these conversations around kids is what you're recommending.
absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely, keep your calm while you're
Hmm.
talking with the children, but tell
Hmm.
them the truth. Do not tell them that the family member will come back, you know,
Hmm.
because you don't want them to keep waiting and thinking, when will that family member come back? Okay, it's
Hmm.
all right to grieve with the kids. In fact, if a family cries together, there's no harm. So you can't
Hmm.
pretend that everything is normal and, oh, some one day everybody dies. No, we don't
Hmm.
even have to have that extreme. So keeping a balanced view, keeping balanced emotions around children helps,
Hmm.
and also making them a part of the grieving process. So
Hmm.
if you're doing a little, whatever your culture is, if you're doing a little prayer or a puja or whatever you're doing, let them be around. Let them also, and talking about the person who you've lost, talking about even happy things about the person,
Hmm.
you know so that is important. And if there is any extreme reactions of any one family
Hmm.
member in front of children, I would not want children to be exposed to that.
Hmm.
So keeping
Right.
children away from extreme emotions, and
Hmm.
getting the child to also talk to a school counselor, to talk to a teacher, to talk to a family
Hmm.
doctor, to talk to a psychologist, whoever it is. It helps, because
Hmm.
because these are people, who will deal with their kids in their own way, whether they do play therapy, art therapy, etc. with them.
Hmm.
And that will
Right.
slowly help the child to come back.
Right. But you talked about how, talking about happy memories of the person whom you've lost, etc., helps. I've seen a lot of even adults at the mention of the person whom they've lost, they just break down. And then in that scenario, you don't know how to approach uh, anything with them. So would you say that there are some
Physical
people?
affection, physical affection. See,
Hmm.
people who are living together, I know we are all trying to keep our distance,
Right.
but at the
Hmm.
same time, people who are living together should not shy away from showing physical affection to people
Hmm.
around them. And that really helps. Sometimes you don't need to say a word. You just need to hold someone's hand. And when you can't do that physically, I
Hmm.
think just being there and allowing the person to show their emotion, and not telling them, not interrupting the grieving process, is the
Hmm.
most difficult thing to do, but the most important.
Yeah, because you don't know where to draw the line really with them. All right, this has been quite helpful, and we hope our viewers also have got a bit of a takeaway from this. In your closing comments, Anjali, what is the mantra really to stay sane in these insane times? What do you recommend people to do generally to ensure that they're able to keep their own mental peace?
I think what I'm telling everyone is focus on the now. Focus on what you
Hmm.
have to do today. Do not plan too much about the future. Do not worry too much about the past.
Mm.
And once you're just concentrate and don't keep yourself unoccupied, keep doing something or the other, and if you don't have enough to do for yourself, try and help whoever you can. Okay.
Mm.
And again, also recognize signs. When you're feeling tired, take a break, talk to people
Mm.
about it. And together, I'm sure we'll be able to cope up, because yes, we've all learned a lot in the last
Mm.
14 months.
All right, this was our first conversation on mental health with our audiences live. Thank you so much for your time, Anjali. I'm sure you've helped out and eased out the anxiety of a lot of people joining us tonight. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you for calling me.